Welcome back to our Peace Through Strength podcast, brought to you by the American Security Council Foundation. I'm your host, Joy Votrobek, and with me today is our senior analyst, Laurence Sanford. Welcome back, Larry.
Good day, Joy.
Thank you, Larry, for your paper on reciprocity. And we were going to discuss reciprocity, and we are, in his paper that he wrote. But we also, Larry, in light of the escalating Israel, Hamas, or well, I guess could say Hamas as well, Hezbollah and Iran situation, I would like to focus on Iran part of your paper. In Larry's paper, he did touch on China, Russia, and Islamic fundamentalism. And of course, Iran is part of that. So I did like what you were saying here about close the Houthi Yemeni Red Sea ports to all traffic to reduce arms shipments from Iran and other proxies. The Houthis have closed the Red Sea for safe passage of international trade, resulting in economic losses worldwide. And with regards to reciprocity, certainly Israel has done a good job in retaliating on the Houthis.
Yes.
So now, the next question is, Iran's involvement and Hezbollah situation is escalating in the north, as we can see. Larry, do you believe that Israel, with the aid of allies such as the U.S., will be able to withstand an even stronger attack if Iran chooses again?
They will withstand an attack. It all depends whether Iran launches a full-scale assault. And now we have into the equation the possibility that Turkey might invade Israel, because Erdogan is threatening an invasion of Israel because of what's going on in Gaza. Why Turkey, formerly known as Turkey, is still a member of NATO is beyond my comprehension. They should be ejected from the organization. But getting back to reciprocity, Israel certainly is following the policy of reciprocity. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And we have Iran funding Hezbollah with millions of dollars, thousands, hundreds of thousands of missiles, supporting Hamas, supporting the Houthis in Yemen. And Israel, within the last 24 hours, has eliminated two of the major characters or leaders of Hezbollah and Hamas. And I think the thing that's it's going to get a response. I'm not sure what way it's going to go, but the fact that Israel has the capability of taking out the leader of Hamas in Tehran, the capital of Iran, with a missile strike, speaks volumes of their capabilities of doing damage to Iran.
Yes, that was impressive news when I heard that.
And this guy, Haniyeh, has been living in Qatar and Turkey in luxury surroundings, has stolen hundreds of millions of dollars in his personal bank account. And he thought he was relatively immune by going to Iran to celebrate the inauguration of the new president. And Israel took him out because, after all, Hamas is the one that led the invasion in Gaza against Israelis, killed 1,200 Jews, captured 250 hostages, committed rape, threw babies in ovens, celebrated it by taking photos and putting it out on the world. And the world of Islam, anyways, many of them, Islamic world, celebrated the assault on Israel. So they committed genocide, and countries all over the world celebrated.
So my next question is, so Lebanon is involved in this because Hezbollah is operating there.
Yes.
I think part of their government, but not everyone in their government agrees with this and wants a war, obviously, with Israel. Do you think Lebanon has any chance of stopping a war or negotiating anything between Hezbollah and Israel?
Well, as you know, Lebanon is made up of Hezbollah, which is a Shia group basically in southern Lebanon, but it has a significant presence in Beirut, the capital city. But there's Christians in Beirut. And there are Druze, which is another minority Islamic group that aren't necessarily tied in with the Shias. And then you have some Sunnis. So it's a mixed bag in Lebanon. But the most powerful factor in there is Hezbollah.
Mm.
And Hezbollah is financed by Iran. It's part of the ring of fire, the ring of resistance surrounding Israel. You have Lebanon, you have the Palestine Liberation Organization, you have Hamas, and you have the Houthis in Yemen. So all these organizations are financed and supported by Iran to bring damage to Israel and to Western civilization. So it's time that we start getting aggressive. And I wrote a paper on the U.S. response to the Houthis, and I said it was a waste of time. And so far, it has been a waste of time, and we spent probably $1 billion more taking down missiles being fired. We have to take out the source of the missiles, and if we have a naval blockade, and some are even suggesting a land invasion, sending the Marines like we did in Tripoli back in the 1800s to take them out, and then maybe we can make some action. But we just can't have airstrikes. You have to stop the stuff coming in, and it's analogous to Vietnam, Joy. I was in the Navy back in the Gulf of Tonkin, and the operations and the planes, I was on a destroyer, would be carriers, they'd be flying plane after plane after plane into North Vietnam, dropped more bombs in North Vietnam than we did in Germany in World War II. And it still didn't do any good because we allowed ships in Haiphong Harbor to continue to come in and out and supply the North Vietnamese. Finally, we started to do something about it, but by then it was too late as far as public awareness and public support had evaporated. We got to do the same thing. We got to stop all stuff coming into the Houthis, and I can just hear the world condemning the United States and the allies for doing stuff because it'll inflict damage and harm on the civilians. So be it. Just like in Gaza, the civilians, 70% of the civilians in Gaza support Hamas. They're suffering. But on the other hand, Israel's supplying food to them. So it's a strange world we live in where the enemy of my enemy is receiving.
It certainly is. And I know you and I have discussed this before. The blockade would be great. And I don't know why the world does not get behind it, because it's affecting international shipping coming through the Red Sea.
Yeah, and it's affecting China, but they don't care about the economic ramifications because it's creating turmoil. And one other thing on reciprocity, I mean, the civilians in Gaza hate Western civilization. And yet we've sent $1 billion worth of support to them recently because of all the suffering they're going through. I don't understand why we're sending a penny. Let the Arab Muslims support them with food and money. And as you all know, Egypt is very much against allowing any resettlement of the people from Gaza. And in Lebanon, we have these refugee camps in Lebanon and in Jordan, and they're supported by the United Nations, which we're the major benefactor. These Palestinian refugees, there's a UN organization called UNRWA, United Nations Relief Work Agency organization. And they've been around since 1948 or 50 or something like that, billions of dollars, and their sole purpose is to support Palestinian refugees from the 1948. There's no other group in the world that's got that kind of support. We should just terminate all aid to that group. Trump did it, and Biden reinstated the aid. That whole organization should be disbanded. Jordan, which originally was Palestine, called Palestine, should take them in. Lebanon take them in. Saudi Arabia take them in. Egypt take them in. Let them take them in.
Well, when I read of Netanyahu's plans was when Hamas has been eliminated as the governing body there and militarily, that he would allow Palestinians back into Gaza as long as they're not linked to Hamas. I think that's going to be a difficult road because, like you said, 70% of them support Hamas, and they have been taught and propagated by Hamas for quite a while now.
Yeah, and the UN was big time. There's 13,000 UN employees working in Gaza before the war. So they knew what was going on. They knew about the tunnels, all the money we spent on those tunnels and to develop. And I say, let them be on their own. Or if they can't survive on their own, Saudi Arabia has plenty of money, Qatar.
Well, this brings me to another point. In fact, you touched on China a little bit. So now we see China trying to broker a peace deal between Hamas and Fatah, or Palestinian Authority. Do you think, well, do you really think that Hamas has any chance of remaining in any sort of governing power with Netanyahu dead set against destroying their governing power there?
No. Israel will not allow Hamas to rear its ugly head. They're not going to eliminate Hamas. You can always have guerrilla groups and small groups floating around, but Hamas will not have a role in power in Gaza, not for the foreseeable future, at least as long as Israel exists.
And the Palestinian Authority?
Who knows? I mean, Abbas has been president now for 20 years. He hasn't had an election in 16 years. The time, he's going to die one of these days. And when that happens, who knows?
Yeah, and I can't see the Israeli people being too happy about wanting Palestinian Authority in Gaza or West Bank. So
yeah, the West Bank, the two-country solution. Why would Israel want a country in the West Bank whose purpose of existence is to drive them into the sea? From river to sea is going to be Palestine. I just don't see Israel giving up the West Bank.
I don't think that's so either. I'm hearing the same thing out of not hearing that out of Netanyahu. Let's put it that way, that he wants any two-state solution.
But the problem is, if Israel formally absorbs the West Bank, now they've got another 3 or 4 million citizens, Muslim citizens in Israel, under Israel. So it presents a problem of, if they're citizens of Israel, they're treated differently than they are treated now. So it's a problem. I don't know the answer, but I know having a two-state solution is not the answer either.
I don't think any of us know the answer right this moment. We'll see how this all unfolds. All right. Well, thank you, Larry, for your comments on your paper on reciprocity and on talking to me on Iran.
Well, thank you, Joy. Enjoyed it as always.
Thank you. And thank you to our listeners. Please subscribe, share, and comment on our YouTube and Rumble channels. You can also like and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And don't forget about Substack. And if you join the ASCF as a member, that includes a paid Substack subscription, which Larry writes articles on as well. So we hope that we will see you on Substack and that you will join us again next time for our Peace Through Strength podcast.